Friends in the hidden currents of life, there moves a subtle force that answers every thought we hold and every word we speak. When we speak in harmony with the laws of abundance, we invite wealth to glide toward us as naturally as a river finds its way to the sea. There is nothing mysterious or strenuous in this. The universe is precise, orderly, and obedient to the tone of our inner conversation. What we claim with conviction becomes the pattern the invisible realm rushes to fulfill. Thus, the phrases we speak, especially those repeated with faith, become magnetic threads that pull prosperity from the unseen into the seen. Many imagine wealth as something distant, selective, or difficult, but wealth is simply the outpicturing of consciousness. As soon as a person aligns their words with the truth of unlimited supply, doors begin to open, burdens lift, and opportunities appear as if summoned by divine appointment. Thought is the mold, but words are the command. Every spoken phrase carries a vibration, and that vibration determines what answers us. To speak in lack is to summon delay. To speak in wealth is to activate the law of increase. The moment we declare a thing is possible, the law begins to arrange the perfect channels through which it may come forth. These magnetic money phrases do not work by force or willpower. They work because they harmonize us with the eternal source that holds all good. They remind us that supply does not come from one job, one person, or any limited avenue. Supply comes through them, but not from them. Once this truth settles into the heart, fear dissolves like mist under the morning sun. We stop chasing and begin attracting. We stop doubting and begin receiving. Wealth does not respond to tension, it answers calm expectancy. When we speak these phrases, we do so as if announcing what already belongs to us in the divine realm. We do not beg, bargain, or strain. We simply affirm truth as a decree, knowing that the spiritual precedes the physical. The words act like keys, unlocking doors that were always meant for us. They summon rightful opportunities, harmonious relationships, inspired ideas, and unexpected blessings. They sharpen intuition and quiet the noise of fear so that guidance may be heard clearly. Every phrase is a sculptor's tool, carving away old beliefs and shaping new realities. With repetition, the mind begins to yield, opening the way for miracles that feel both astonishing and perfectly timed. Prosperity becomes natural, effortless, and even playful. The person who uses these phrases consistently begins to notice coincidences that are not coincidences at all, only the rhythm of divine order answering the signal of their spoken word. So let each phrase be spoken with certainty. Feel the truth behind the words. Allow them to settle into your consciousness like seeds in fertile soil, knowing they cannot fail to grow. Wealth is not a distant hope. It is a living force waiting to be acknowledged. And the moment you speak in alignment with it, it begins its swift approach toward you. Words spoken with conviction become magnetic commands to the universe. For in the unseen fabric of life, every utterance sets a law in motion. When a person speaks with belief, true unwavering belief, their words are not merely sounds carried on air. They are patterns impressed upon substance, blueprints delivered to the invisible realm that holds all potential. The universe responds not to idle chatter or half-hearted wishes, but to the frequency of certainty. Conviction is the spiritual voltage that energizes a phrase, transforming it from a casual statement into a decree. A decree, unlike a hope or a plea, carries the tone of authority, the certainty that what is spoken must take shape. This tone is recognized instantly by the law of mind, which is impersonal, unfailing, and always obedient to the dominant vibration one sends forth. To understand why conviction makes words magnetic, one must understand that thought and speech are creative instruments. A thought alone can set a process in motion, but a thought given voice becomes amplified, solidified, and directed. Speech is thought made visible. It is thought stepping into form. When spoken with clarity and faith, words act like signals sent into the ether, summoning all necessary conditions to bring themselves into manifestation. They do not drift aimlessly. They travel on the path carved by the belief behind them. It is the inner certainty, not the outer volume, that determines their strength. Whispered truth, spoken with conviction, is more powerful than loud declarations made in doubt. Conviction binds word and intention together, creating a unified field through which the law can operate unhindered. Each person continually impresses the universe with the tone of their speech. Words laced with fear, resentment, or disbelief attract experiences that match those vibrations. Words rooted in confidence, gratitude, and expectation summon their own harmonious results. Conviction acts as a kind of spiritual adhesive, adhering one's spoken word to the outcome it names. Without conviction, affirmations are like seeds scattered on barren soil. With conviction, they are planted in fertile ground where they begin to grow the moment they are released. Many wonder why their affirmations fail to produce results, not realizing that they speak them while secretly harboring contradiction. They may declare abundance while inwardly fearing insufficiency. The universe cannot respond to confusion. It responds to the strongest vibration. When conviction is present, it becomes the dominant tone. When doubt is present, doubt speaks louder than any words uttered. The magnetic quality of words arises from the universal law that like attracts like. When one speaks from belief, they radiate the frequency of the condition they name. If they speak wealth with conviction, they vibrate in harmony with abundance. If they speak success with certainty, they align with success. Speech becomes a tuning fork, calling forth circumstances that resonate with its pitch. This calling forth is not metaphorical, it is literal within the framework of spiritual law. A person's spoken word is an invitation that the universe is compelled to answer, provided the invitation is clear and unwavering. Conviction makes it clear. Conviction removes the static of uncertainty. Conviction announces, "This is so," and the law replies by shaping conditions to match. When a person repeatedly speaks with conviction, they begin to shift the deeper patterns of their subconscious mind. The subconscious is the fertile soil in which all experiences are rooted. It is impressionable, responsive, and literal. It does not reason or question, it receives and reproduces. Words spoken with doubt barely touch it, but words spoken with conviction leave imprints that cannot be erased. These imprints become mental equivalents, inner patterns that determine what one attracts and experiences. Once the subconscious accepts a spoken truth, it begins to reorganize thoughts, emotions, actions, and opportunities to make that truth visible. Conviction is the force that opens the subconscious to receive the message, for the subconscious responds to feeling, and conviction is a feeling state, not merely a verbal one. The magnetic power of conviction also arises from its ability to dissolve opposition within oneself. Many people speak desires while simultaneously resisting them through fear, guilt, or unworthiness. Conviction bypasses this resistance by establishing a dominant inner authority. It overrides the small, doubtful voice and replaces it with a tone of certainty. When one speaks with conviction, they speak from the highest self, the self that knows its unity with divine supply. This inner knowing is what gives the spoken word its magnetic pull. The universe does not respond to the mask a person wears, it responds to the truth of their inner alignment. Conviction is alignment in action. Furthermore, conviction transforms the emotional atmosphere surrounding an intention. Without conviction, words feel flat, mechanical, or forced. With conviction, they carry vitality, warmth, and expectancy. Expectancy is one of the strongest spiritual forces available to us. It is the silent affirmation that what is desired is already on its way. When a person expects good, they become a beacon for it. When they expect delay or disappointment, they attract that as well. Conviction naturally generates positive expectancy, for one cannot speak a thing with true belief and simultaneously doubt its arrival. This expectancy radiates outward, influencing circumstances, drawing opportunities, and reorganizing events toward fulfillment. Conviction also purifies speech, for only truth can be spoken convincingly. One cannot speak lack with conviction unless they have accepted lack as a permanent reality, and should they do so, the universe obeys that tone just as faithfully. But when one speaks abundance with conviction, they align with the truth of unlimited supply. When they speak freedom with conviction, they align with the truth of their spiritual authority. Thus, conviction becomes a guide, revealing which words are rooted in truth and which stem from illusion. Words that weaken you cannot be spoken convincingly. Words that strengthen you carry the resonance of spiritual law. Words spoken with conviction also carry a directive quality. They do not merely describe reality, they instruct it. They are not observations, they are commands. When one speaks with conviction, the words go forth as spiritual messengers, organizing energy, drawing forth resources, and aligning circumstances as if following a precise blueprint. They do not wander or hesitate, they proceed with purpose. This purpose is shaped entirely by the speaker's intention. When intention and conviction unite, they create a current too strong to resist. Conviction, then, is the essence that animates the spoken word. Without it, words are shadows. With it, they are creative power in motion. Words spoken with conviction declare identity, claim inheritance, and summon the next chapter of one's experience. They announce to the universe what one is prepared to receive, and the universe answers in kind. Wealth responds to alignment, not force or fear, because the universal law is not swayed by struggle, worry, or desperate effort. The human mind often believes that wealth is something to be wrested, dragged, or coerced into existence, but this belief only produces friction and resistance. True prosperity flows to those who position themselves in harmony with the invisible currents of life, those who allow abundance to come as naturally as the tide rises to the moon. Force, tension, and fear are like stones thrown into a river. They disrupt the natural flow and create turbulence. When a person attempts to summon money through anxious striving, through mental pressure or frantic effort, they meet resistance because their vibration is out of rhythm with the law that governs increase. The law responds to resonance, not compulsion, and abundance cannot be conjured by force any more than light can be created by covering the sun with one's hands. Alignment, in the spiritual sense, is the state of inner agreement with the unlimited source of all good. It is knowing that supply exists in infinite measure, and that it is ever ready to flow to the one who is prepared to receive it. When a person is aligned, they do not demand, they do not fret, and they do not fear. They act from a place of assurance that the universe operates in their favor. Every thought, every word, every feeling is tuned to the same frequency as abundance. This tuning is what produces effortless results. Effort is not eliminated entirely, for inspired action may be required, but action springs from clarity, confidence, and joy, rather than from worry, urgency, or obligation. Alignment ensures that every step taken moves one closer to the desired result, that every encounter and every decision falls naturally into the flow of opportunity. Fear, on the other hand, is the opposite of alignment. It signals disconnection, disbelief, and resistance. Fear contracts energy, creating mental and emotional knots that block the channels through which abundance would flow. A fearful person may labor tirelessly, strategize endlessly, or chase after opportunities, yet still encounter obstacles and frustration because fear operates like a closed gate. The law does not punish fear, it simply responds to the dominant vibration present. When fear dominates, the law mirrors that fear with scarcity, delay, or difficulty. Wealth cannot coexist with fear because fear is a signal of untrust in the invisible flow. The more one trusts and aligns, the more effortlessly wealth comes, because alignment clears the way for the unseen to manifest visible results. Alignment also requires a change in perception. Many believe that money is scarce, that opportunity is limited, or that competition is the ultimate determinant of success. These beliefs automatically produce misalignment because they carry the vibration of limitation. To align, one must perceive abundance as the natural state of life. Money is not outside of us, separate or elusive. It is a reflection of the inner state. When one feels abundant, speaks abundantly, and acts with the confidence of abundance, the outer world mirrors this inner condition. Conversely, if one clings to fear, doubt, or a sense of insufficiency, the outer world mirrors that as well. Alignment is therefore an inward process, a state of mind and spirit that magnetizes wealth rather than repelling it. The practice of alignment involves conscious attention to thought, word, and feeling. One must cultivate a mental environment where doubt and anxiety are replaced with faith and expectancy. This does not mean ignoring challenges or acting blindly. It means acknowledging the situation without allowing it to dictate emotional or mental tone. It means choosing to focus on the infinite possibilities rather than the apparent lack. Words spoken in alignment carry a different force than words uttered in desperation. Affirmations, declarations, and thoughts rooted in faith act like magnets, attracting people, ideas, and circumstances that support the desired outcome. Alignment harmonizes the invisible and visible, creating a direct path for abundance to appear. Fear also limits action. It induces hesitation, second-guessing, and procrastination. A fearful mind questions every opportunity, sees obstacles in every direction, and doubts the sufficiency of resources. Alignment, by contrast, inspires confident action. Aligned individuals act decisively, trusting that the right guidance, the right support, and the right timing are always present. Their actions are not frantic, they are deliberate and inspired. Every step taken aligns with opportunity, drawing circumstances that support than oppose their goals. Fear binds energy to uncertainty. Alignment releases energy into creation. Emotional tone is a key indicator of alignment. Joy, gratitude, and calm expectancy signal alignment, while worry, stress, and resistance indicate misalignment. The law is sensitive to these emotional vibrations because emotions are the amplifier of thought. Even accurate thought, if delivered with fear or tension, fails to produce results. Conversely, thought aligned with faith and clarity resonates with the infinite source, multiplying the power of spoken words and intentional actions. Alignment is therefore both an inner discipline and an outer magnetism. It creates a harmonious bridge between the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the unseen forces that govern abundance. One of the most profound aspects of alignment is the understanding that wealth is not achieved by struggle, but by cooperation with the law. The universe is not hostile, it is impartial and responsive. Every individual has access to infinite supply, yet the degree of reception depends entirely on their state of alignment. Force cannot command, it can only create resistance. Fear cannot attract, it can only repel. Alignment, however, is magnetic. It calls forth resources, inspires solutions, and orchestrates circumstances that appear to arrive effortlessly. When one understands this principle, their relationship with money changes from tension to ease, from striving to expectation, from doubt to faith. The moment one truly aligns, the entire field of opportunity shifts to support them, because alignment is the signal the universe has been waiting to receive. Supply flows through channels but comes from an unlimited source, a truth often overlooked in the human experience of wealth. Many people mistake the visible means of money, jobs, clients, investments, or material resources as the source itself. They pour effort, worry, and attention into these channels, believing that the channel creates the supply, when in reality the channel is only a pathway through which the infinite flows. The source of all good is inexhaustible, ever-present, and unbound by circumstance. It is not limited by the numbers in a bank account, the fluctuations of the market, or the actions of other people. It is a constant, silent, and obedient wellspring, responding to the vibration of consciousness, rather than the activity of the hands. Understanding this distinction is key to mastering the art of attracting wealth, for it shifts the focus from the limited and visible to the infinite and unseen. The universe operates like a perfect economy, where every desire, when aligned with truth, finds its pathway to manifestation. Channels, jobs, contracts, opportunities, and exchanges are merely conduits. They are essential for physical expression, but they are not the source. When one relies on the channel rather than the source, they experience tension, fear, and limitation. They worry about losing a job, missing an opportunity, or being dependent on someone else's actions. These worries arise because their focus is on the channel rather than the true supply. Conversely, when one understands that supply is infinite and that any channel is simply a means, not a maker, fear dissipates and confidence grows. This understanding allows a person to act from a state of assurance, knowing that if one channel closes, another will open, for the source is never exhausted. Every channel obeys the law of flow, responding to the vibrations set by the individual. A person who trusts the source and speaks, thinks, and acts in alignment with abundance automatically attracts the channels through which that supply can manifest. If a business opportunity is needed, the perfect client or investor appears. If resources for a project are needed, the right contacts, materials, or funding align effortlessly. Channels will present themselves in the right time, place, and form, guided by the invisible hand of infinite supply. The key is to hold one's consciousness steady on the source, not to chase or manipulate the channel. Force applied to a channel can produce temporary results, but it cannot summon the flow of infinite supply, because it attempts to substitute human effort for divine orchestration. Understanding the distinction between source and channel also encourages a sense of freedom and creativity. When supply is seen as unlimited, the mind is freed from scarcity thinking and becomes open to ideas, opportunities, and solutions that might otherwise have been overlooked. One begins to notice patterns, connections, and resources that were previously invisible. The subconscious, attuned to the infinite source, begins to organize experiences and perceptions around abundance. This inner clarity translates into outer results. Channels appear in perfect sequence, often unexpectedly, and they work together harmoniously to deliver the desired outcome. The person aligned with source does not need to control every detail. The flow itself becomes intelligent, orchestrating conditions to fulfill intention. Fear and worry about channels are a direct signal of disconnection from the source. When attention is placed on the vulnerability of the channel, a boss who might fire, a client who might cancel, a market that might fluctuate, energy is diverted into resistance. The channel then becomes unstable, and scarcity seems to rule. But when attention is lifted to the source, the channel is seen as a servant of abundance, not its master. Confidence replaces fear. The mind is steady, patient, and expectant. This inner steadiness magnetizes the flow of opportunities that serve the intended purpose. The channel, no longer a source of anxiety, becomes a willing participant in the larger orchestration of supply. Every act of receiving or giving is part of a greater flow from the source. Money, like energy, circulates, and each channel is a conduit through which this energy moves. Understanding this flow allows one to participate consciously. One can give freely, knowing that giving does not diminish supply but merely moves it through channels to manifest in different forms. One can receive confidently, knowing that the source is ever present and cannot be depleted. Channels may shift, forms may change, but the underlying supply remains constant, infinite, and obedient to the law of consciousness. This understanding creates a sense of ease, trust, and collaboration with the universe, replacing tension, struggle, and fear. The recognition of source over channel also transforms action. Actions taken from fear or scarcity attempt to control channels and often produce strain, frustration, and mistakes. Actions taken from alignment with the infinite source are inspired, effortless, and effective. The person guided by source takes steps that feel natural, harmonious, and in rhythm with circumstances. They do not force outcomes but cooperate with them, letting supply find its expression through the appropriate channel. This cooperation is a demonstration of faith, showing the law that the individual is receptive, aware, and ready. The channel becomes a vehicle for manifestation, not a burden or a bottleneck. Belief in the unlimited source cultivates gratitude and abundance consciousness. When one sees supply as infinite, every channel, no matter how small or humble, is appreciated as a gift, a manifestation of the source flowing to them. This gratitude further strengthens alignment, reinforcing the magnetism that draws new opportunities and resources. The universe responds to appreciation because appreciation is a vibration of acknowledgement, recognizing the presence of abundance and inviting more of it. Fear and worry, by contrast, block the perception of channels and obscure the experience of flow, reducing one's ability to attract, receive, and act with clarity. In practical life, the understanding that supply flows through channels but comes from an unlimited source removes dependency on specific outcomes. A person may lose one job, miss one opportunity, or face a temporary setback, but the source remains intact, and new channels inevitably present themselves. This knowledge eliminates desperation and creates resilience. It transforms challenges into redirections, delay into preparation, and obstacles into opportunities. The source cannot be exhausted, blocked, or controlled by circumstance, and awareness of this truth places the individual in a position of power and peace, ready to recognize and utilize every channel through which abundance may flow. Prosperity begins as a declared spiritual truth before it appears materially, for the unseen always precedes the seen, and the inner world shapes the outer world in accordance with the law of consciousness. Before a coin can appear in the hand, before a contract is signed, before a business flourishes or an account is credited, the mind must first conceive of wealth as real, present, and inevitable. This truth is not simply a mental exercise or hopeful thinking, it is a recognition of the spiritual law that governs all manifestation. Everything visible in life, money, resources, success, has its origin in the invisible realm of thought, belief, and spoken word. The material world is merely the reflection of the inner world. Those who grasp this principle understand that to attract prosperity, they must first establish it as an undeniable reality within themselves. It must be dekel, ard, accepted, and embraced as a truth so solid that it overrides any evidence of lack, any appearance of limitation, and any fear of insufficiency. The declaration of spiritual truth requires clarity and conviction. To declare prosperity spiritually is to affirm the presence of abundance without questioning, without delay, and without reference to current circumstances. It is not enough to say, "I hope to have money," or "I wish I could be prosperous." Such statements are tentative and weak. They contain doubt and hesitation which dilute their power. Instead, one must speak with the certainty that comes from knowing the law will respond. Phrases such as "abundance flows to me in perfect ways," "I am open and receptive to the infinite supply of life," and "prosperity is my divine right and present reality," carry an unmistakable tone of authority and faith. These declarations act as signals to the invisible realm, instructing it to bring forth the conditions that match the inner conviction. The law does not argue or negotiate, it responds directly to the vibration of the inner word. The spiritual declaration of prosperity also transforms the individual's consciousness, creating a state in which the mind, emotions, and actions are aligned with abundance. When a person accepts prosperity as a present reality, they begin to think in terms of opportunity rather than scarcity, of possibility rather than limitation. Every thought, feeling, and intention begins to harmonize with the energy of wealth. The subconscious mind, which operates as the creative workshop of life, immediately begins to reorganize experiences, perceptions, and ideas around this dominant truth. It searches for evidence that supports the declaration, aligning habits, decisions, and attention to match the inner affirmation. The outer world, in response, begins to reflect this inner state, and opportunities, people, and resources appear in ways that seem natural, timely, and often surprising. Belief in prosperity as a spiritual truth also removes resistance and fear from the process of manifestation. When wealth is seen as a distant, uncertain, or conditional state, the mind produces tension, anxiety, and doubt. These negative vibrations obstruct the flow of abundance and create unnecessary struggle. The material result becomes delayed or distorted because the energy behind it is conflicted. Conversely, when one holds prosperity as a spiritual truth, the mind is calm, assured, and expectant. This inner certainty acts like a magnet, drawing the appropriate circumstances, opportunities, and connections toward the individual. Wealth is not forced, it is invited, and the invitation is strengthened by unwavering inner conviction. Another essential aspect of declaring prosperity spiritually is the understanding that material wealth is only a reflection of the invisible truth. The source of abundance is infinite and universal, and the visible manifestation is merely the proof of the law in action. By focusing first on the spiritual truth, the individual bypasses the limitations of the physical world. They no longer rely solely on effort, circumstance, or the approval of others. Instead, they trust that the unseen law of increase is at work, orchestrating every condition, every person, and every resource needed for the fulfillment of their desire. This trust eliminates worry, indecision, and the sense of struggle, replacing it with alignment, clarity, and purposeful action. The act of declaration also strengthens one's capacity to recognize opportunities. When prosperity is firmly established as a spiritual truth, the mind begins to notice openings, connections, and solutions that previously went unseen. Inspiration, intuition, and creative insight become heightened. This heightened awareness allows one to move with discernment, choosing channels and actions that harmonize with the inner truth. Every decision is guided by the understanding that the universe is already supplying all that is needed. No door appears too small, no challenge too great, and no resource too limited. The spiritual declaration acts as a lens, transforming perception so that abundance is seen everywhere, in every interaction, and in every circumstance. Moreover, the declaration of prosperity as a spiritual truth cultivates a sense of gratitude and expectancy that further amplifies the flow of abundance. Gratitude acknowledges the presence of supply, no matter how subtle or unseen, reinforcing the belief that the law is operative. Expectancy creates a confident anticipation that wealth is arriving and ready active in the unseen realm. Together, gratitude and expectancy generate a high vibration that resonates with the infinite source, enhancing the magnetism of spoken and thought words. This resonance accelerates manifestation, aligning the individual with both visible and invisible channels through which abundance flows. The spiritual declaration of prosperity also has the power to transform obstacles into opportunities. When one perceives prosperity is already present, challenges are no longer viewed as barriers, but as indicators of the path that must be taken, lessons that must be learned, or adjustments that must be made. Each situation is reframed through the lens of abundance, and the individual acts from the energy of solution rather than struggle. This energy itself attracts favorable conditions, reveals hidden resources, and creates pathways that may have seemed impossible from a perspective of lack. The law operates in perfect order when one's consciousness is aligned with truth, and each declaration reinforces the authority of that alignment. To fully embrace prosperity as a spiritual truth, one must consistently speak, feel, and think in accordance with it. Repetition strengthens conviction and impresses the subconscious mind, turning belief into living experience. Every phrase spoken in faith is a command sent into the invisible realm, activating the forces that arrange circumstances, attract people, and open doors. The combination of spoken word, emotional resonance, and mental focus forms an irresistible magnet for abundance, drawing it swiftly into manifestation. By continuously affirming the spiritual reality of prosperity, one establishes a dominant vibration that overcomes doubts, dissolves resistance, and aligns every aspect of life with the flow of wealth. Repeated affirmations reshape consciousness and attract swift opportunities because mind is a fertile field that responds to consistent impressions. Every word spoken, every thought held, and every feeling expressed creates patterns in the subconscious mind, which in turn orchestrates the events, circumstances, and experiences of life. The subconscious does not reason or debate. It simply accepts and reproduces what is impressed upon it. When affirmations are repeated with conviction, they act like seeds sown in fertile soil, taking root in the unseen layers of consciousness and gradually bringing forth corresponding results in the material world. The repetition is crucial because it reinforces the impression, strengthens belief, and aligns both thought and emotion with the desired outcome. Without repetition, the message is weak, inconsistent, and easily overridden by contrary thoughts or fears. With repetition, the affirmation becomes dominant, shaping perception, attitude, and ultimately experience. The power of repeated affirmations lies in their ability to bypass doubt and contradiction in the conscious mind. Many people desire wealth, success, or fulfillment, yet they continually entertain negative thoughts, fears, or limiting beliefs. These conflicting signals create a kind of spiritual interference that slows manifestation. Affirmations, when spoken repeatedly and with conviction, override these conflicting beliefs. They act as persistent, focused instructions to the subconscious mind, gradually convincing it of the reality of the desired state. The subconscious then begins to align thought patterns, emotional responses, and actions with this new dominant belief. This alignment is essential because the outer world responds primarily to the programming of the subconscious. The repeated affirmation becomes a blueprint, a template that the law of mind works to fulfill. Repetition also builds momentum. Just as physical training strengthens muscles through consistent exercise, repeated affirmations strengthen mental and spiritual faculties. Each repetition adds energy to the vibration of the spoken word, increasing its magnetic power. The more frequently an affirmation is spoken, the more deeply it penetrates the layers of consciousness and the more powerfully it directs the creative forces of the universe. The subconscious, now deeply impressed with the truth of the affirmation, begins to attract experiences, people, resources, and opportunities that correspond to the declared reality. Momentum accumulates quietly at first, often unnoticed, but eventually the flow becomes unmistakable. Opportunities begin to appear as if by design, doors open that previously seemed closed, and circumstances shift in alignment with the dominant pattern established by the repeated affirmations. Emotional involvement amplifies the effect of repeated affirmations. The subconscious mind responds not only to words but also to feeling. Affirmations spoken with genuine feeling, faith, and expectancy carry a higher vibration than those spoken mechanically or without attention. Emotion acts as a multiplier, accelerating the alignment of consciousness with the desired outcome. A phrase spoken with joy, confidence, and certainty impresses the subconscious far more deeply than the same phrase spoken in doubt or monotony. The combination of repetition and emotional resonance creates a powerful energetic signal that magnetizes circumstances in harmony with the declared desire. This is why repeated, heartfelt affirmations are considered one of the most effective tools for manifestation. Repetition also serves to reshape identity. By consistently affirming positive truths, the individual gradually replaces old beliefs, habits, and limitations with new patterns of thought and behavior. Self-doubt, scarcity thinking, and fear of lack are gradually dissolved, replaced by confidence, expectancy, and the recognition of abundance as a natural state. As identity shifts, actions naturally align with the new self-concept. A person who repeatedly affirms prosperity begins to behave in ways that reflect abundance, making wise decisions, seeking opportunities, and expressing gratitude and generosity. These actions, in turn, attract further prosperity, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of growth and expansion. Repeated affirmations act as a form of spiritual education, gradually teaching the subconscious mind the reality of abundance and the law of attraction. Another important effect of repeated affirmations is their ability to sharpen intuition and awareness of opportunities. The subconscious mind, attuned to the vibration of the affirmation, begins to notice circumstances, people, and events that correspond to the declared truth. Synchronicities, coincidences, and sudden insights often appear, guiding the individual to opportunities that might otherwise have been overlooked. These subtle cues are the universe's way of signaling alignment, showing that the affirmation is working and that the individual is moving in harmony with the natural flow of supply. The repeated declaration primes the mind to recognize these cues, enhancing decision-making, timing, and creativity. The outer world begins to mirror the inner reality established through consistent verbal, mental, and emotional reinforcement. Repetition also strengthens faith, a critical component of manifestation. Faith is not blind belief, it is confidence born of consistent alignment with truth. The act of repeating affirmations over time gradually convinces the subconscious that the declared state is not only possible but inevitable. Each repetition is an act of trust, a conformati. On that the law is reliable and responsive. As faith grows, resistance diminishes, and expectancy becomes natural. The individual no longer doubts the arrival of opportunities or the fulfillment of desires. They simply anticipate it with certainty. Faith and expectancy are themselves powerful attractors, drawing into life circumstances that match the vibration of belief reinforced through repetition. The physical world also begins to cooperate with repeated affirmations through the actions inspired by the shifted consciousness. The mind, body, and spirit act in harmony with the new dominant pattern, producing behaviors that bring the affirmation into tangible reality. Confidence leads to better decisions, clarity leads to effective planning, and inspired action opens doors that were previously closed. People are drawn to the individual because of the energy they radiate. Opportunities appear seemingly by coincidence, and resources become available in ways that confirm the truth of the repeated affirmations. This process demonstrates the principle that the inner state shapes the outer world. The repeated affirmation establishes that state, and the outer world responds accordingly. Repetition also neutralizes the influence of negative external conditions. Even in the presence of challenges, competition, or scarcity in the environment, repeated affirmations maintain the individual's alignment with abundance. By consistently focusing on what is desired rather than what is feared, the person maintains a high vibration that attracts positive conditions and deflects limiting influences. The subconscious mind acts as a filter, organizing perception and experience to match the dominant inner pattern, so that external obstacles are either resolved, bypassed, or transformed into opportunities. This consistent focus creates resilience and adaptability, allowing the individual to navigate challenges without losing connection to the desired outcome. Finally, repeated affirmations accelerate the speed of manifestation. Each repetition strengthens belief, reinforces the subconscious pattern, amplifies emotional resonance, and aligns actions with intention. The law of cause and effect operates more efficiently when the cause, affirmed thought, is strong, clear, and consistent. Repetition is the mechanism by which the inner signal gains clarity and power, compelling the universe to respond with corresponding effects. Opportunities, resources, and favorable circumstances appear rapidly because the magnetic vibration of the repeated affirmation has established a clear pattern for the law to fulfill. Each repetition compounds the energy, gradually shortening the time between inner declaration and outer manifestation.